From Bribery to Battleships, how to gamify staff storytelling. That's what we'll be talking about on this episode of the Story Connect podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Megan McCoy-No, one of the storytellers at Pioneer Utility Resources, and I am joined by Patrick Wood, Manager of Communications at Como Connect in Missouri. We're in his home state at NRECA's 2025 Connect Conference, trading ideas with a few hundred of our friends. And Patrick, thanks so much for coming on the podcast to trade some ideas with us here.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Now, you led a session on turning internal communications into a game. And full disclosure, I wrote up all these questions and because he had a whole battleship theme.
I did.
And then he starts playing Game of Thrones music, and I was not prepared for that either way.
I like to go with a bunch of hard left turns. I don't want people to know where I'm going.
Yeah,
so
never.
I'll write up jokes, and then a few months later, when I actually have to write the presentation, those jokes don't make it in anymore.
Yes.
So it all works though.
But it was all about having fun, which I think is the best way to tell stories, and you do that very well. So when you were writing about it initially, when it got approved, you didn't choose just any game. You chose Battleship.
Yes.
So before we start.
Oh, nice.
Why does making sure your story hits staff matter?
Sure, and I will preface by saying I chose Battleship because at the time my sons and I would play Battleship, and they cheat. Like I was planning. I was planning on cheating.
Obviously,
but they cheated first. So I found it interesting, mostly with some of the ideas of internal communications and just communications in general. Of people have this ideology that they're going to get 100%. You're going to get 100% of your staff in your office to read your stuff. You're going to get 100% of your members or subscribers to read your stuff. And 100%, nobody wants to say it, but 100% is not achievable. I know in grade school, 100% is the A. You want that A+. But really, realistically, 70%, which is, I know based on elementary rules, a C, although my son's elementary right now, I don't know what their grading scale is. I need a conversion chart.
Yeah. And then they changed it again this year for us.
And I'm changed it so much.
Stop. I don't understand these letters.
But that idea that you're going to get it all, I really think it's kind of like playing Battleship with a 6-year-old, and the fact that you can't because he took one of the battleships off the board and shoved it in his pocket. So you're shooting for it. And the idea is you're
never going to find it.
You always try to win, but you're not going to. So you got to really be satisfied with that less percent, but always try to continue to get more. And as you said, with that gamification, really finding fun ways to communicate, and sometimes bribing, sometimes putting little incentives.
So we're gonna talk about that. I loved what you were talking about bribery.
Yeah.
Yes, true.
I'm not above bribery. It's fine.
None of us are. All right. So you want to make sure your story is hitting folks, but you have to realize you're not always going to hit everyone.
Exactly.
It's not possible. So let's set some realistic expectations.
And be okay with that. I think that's another thing, is just to be okay with that, because everybody's like, there's this one small group and they don't want to be engaged with. I'm like, they're not going to be engaged with. Yeah. Continue to try and develop your communications for the people who truly enjoy it, and maybe eventually you'll come up with something that might tackle a few of those people who are just against engaging with your stuff, but you're not going to get them all. You're not going to get them all, and that's okay.
Okay. Life lessons heard here. Story Connect podcast.
There it is.
All right. So Battleship. Let us play. It's been a few years, but I won to say folks each have a layout of ships, and players can respond with hit, miss, or sunk.
Yep.
After every turn. So what staff communication channels have you tried that missed the mark?
So we've had a few, and I want to also preface this by, just because it failed for me doesn't mean it's going to fail for you.
Oh, it will fail.
Different strokes for different folks.
Everyone has a different layout of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So your employees, all utility employees, don't just put their destroyer on.
They try and stack the battleships and fool you.
Exactly. Or they're in the pockets and not on the board at all.
That's absolutely true. So I've had a variety. We went through those yesterday in the presentation of one that just absolutely didn't work. And I've worked in different, outside of the cooperative, I worked at the Missouri Department of Transportation doing statewide internal communications. I worked at SSM Health in the mid-Missouri region with a bunch of clinics and hospitals. and even now at the co-op with about 200 employees in 2 different locations and 4 buildings. So a variety of where they're putting their battleships. And the one that failed the most was probably we had a branded app that was at Missouri Department of Transportation that was forced to people's phones, and then it was a push notification forced to them. And surprisingly enough, when you force people to try and read stuff, they don't want to do it. So that one was probably the biggest fail across the board.
Imagining they care just because it comes from work.
I know, right?
So
forced corporate communication, because unfortunately some of the stuff we were putting out there, it really wasn't even employee tailored, because they found out that the app could be downloaded by anybody in the state. Nobody was going to download it, but they could. So all of the stuff was very corporate and really wasn't employee focused. So the push notifications weren't exciting either. So
no. Well, and that's part of it. You've got to tailor your messages. And I want to talk to you about that in a minute. But we're talking about things that hit as well. Not that you, and I should preface this, we're talking Battleship, but please do not hit your employees or
that hard.
Or sink their hopes and dreams.
That hard.
With your internal communication. So just, be mindful. This is a game. We're not actually hurting people here. So you mentioned a big win for you as well, something that has hit the mark at your utility, not necessarily for everyone else, but it was audio news.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it was a big hit. So how do you create 5-minute news bites for your staff?
Sure. So that was on my way to work one day, where I was arriving perfectly on time and not late at all. The 8 o'clock morning news came around.
And you start work at 8:30, right?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And they had as I'm sure quite a few of you who still listen to the radio know, what up, listeners over 35?
That's B, by the way.
For sure, it's me, clearly, because I did it. But I was on my way to work, and the top of the hour news came on, and it was just little snippets. It didn't really go into detailed stories, but it's just little snippets of news. And I mean, on theirs is like 3 minutes or less. But I thought about it, and I was like, well, that's an interesting way to do it. Just it's quick, it's easy, news in 5 minutes or less. So when I got to the office, I wanted to try it out. I'm definitely of the Miss Frizzle mentality of make mistakes, try new things, get messy. So I tried it out. I ran up all the top stories that I was going to put in the news for that week anyway, which was going to be a digital newsletter. I kind of truncated them into little sound bites and recorded them. And it was extremely successful because people and they kept coming up to me afterwards and had the opportunity to click to open this SoundCloud link, and they could listen to the news while they did other things in their morning routine. So it didn't stop or disrupt the flow, but they still had that internal news opportunity. And it was short enough that we had some of our larger groups that meet once a week play it during their group meetings because it didn't take a ton of time. So that was another really big win there to make sure that message is getting out.
Now, I should say audio news is exciting, and audio storytelling is having a big moment right
Exactly,
now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're here.
Podcasts.
You can find more at pioneer.coop/podcasts. But,
nice.
It's audio storytelling is a big thing right now because you can multitask, and we love multitasking.
Exactly.
In this generation. But I can imagine some folks tuning in are like, another channel? No. So talk to me about the process of, like, how much time does it take for you to make this audio news bite? And you send it out every week, you said?
Yeah, so we're sending that out weekly. Anybody at Como watching or listening to this will say that it's like, well, he used to. So I did
No judgment. Give yourself grace.
So I got sidetracked there. I wrote a couple of kids' books. But then what we do is we do have it weekly, and it doesn't really take that much time at all. It's news in 5 minutes or less. Typically, it's just maybe 4 or 5 headline stories. I've even put birthdays and anniversaries at the end to kind of personalize it, have some fun with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very long to record it because I kind of write it up a script and I just quickly go through it. I might make a couple of middle mistakes and I'll go back and edit those, and then off it goes. I try not to. So we have a system kind of like this in the office. I got a couple of podcast style microphones. So we have those right there in the office, because we did also at the same time, since we had the audio equipment, start doing some podcast internally, bringing in some senior staff members and just employees that people don't see very often, because we have an economic developer who works remote, but she's always in our service territory meeting with people and doing some amazing things. We have our business development team who is constantly going out there doing various things. Photo. And we wanted to highlight what they do and their importance to Como, even though people don't see them regularly. So we had them come in for podcasts, and those were quite longer. Those were like 20, 30 minutes at times. And people still really loved them. They still had a really high listenership, because people could press play on it and keep doing what they were doing. So that opening up the ability to not stop people from what they were doing, not stopping them from the work that they needed to get done. We're all busy. We all have so many things to do. So finding a medium that we can still put out internal communications and new information that they would want to know while not stopping them from doing that work was something that was pretty well received.
I love that. I love that you have your news bites.
Yep.
And then you have a way to take it deeper.
Yeah, so we had a really good success, and we poll people. We like to survey. So it's kind of like in Battleship when you try something and they have to say whether it was a hit or a miss. We like to survey to see whether it was a hit or a miss. I brought it back around.
Yeah, you did.
So we got a lot of good feedback, but we did have a small contingency who didn't want to listen to the audio news. And I took that a little personally. I was like, don't want to listen to my voice. That hurts my feelings.
No.
I cried for a long time. And then it made sense, because I wrote up these scripts already for the audio news. So I would just read the sound bites as I normally would, and then I would go in and I'd add a little bit to the stories. And if I had a little bit to add, I would add it. If I didn't, I had ChatGPT help me add it. AI. So we kind of fleshed it out. So I sent both of them out. So they had the opportunity to either listen to me, read it in 5 minutes or less, or they could read it in 5 minutes or less. But it really was going to depend on their willingness to read in 5 minutes or less. It's going to be your reading level versus your time availability. So.
Oh, okay. Well, to continue our Battleship game and strategy, in the game, there are cruisers, battleships, destroyers, and submarines.
Subs of cools.
Right, I know. And you never know when a torpedo's heading your way, which is terrifying. But let's ask, what staff stories are easy, like cruisers?
Sure.
And then what stories and like folks like really tune in for, and then what stories sneak up on you and torpedo your day?
Sure. Well, there's a variety of ways that we're getting those different ships sailing our way. So one of them is just stuff that happens anyway. So we have our group of customer service representatives, or member care, whatever you guys call them.
Oh, I like member care.
I know member care is a great one, but I feel like everybody has different names for that group.
They do. It's a very contentious issue. It's a different game.
But that group, they have kind of superstars or employees of the month kind of situation. So we get that information, and we will ask what they do to achieve it. So we have that kind of built in. So not only are they celebrating within their own department, but everybody can celebrate that, because we're obviously selected for going above and beyond. We also get little tidbits just in talking to people. It's a benefit of being a small enough community. You do kind of chat about things that are going on. I love to find out what people are nerdy about and talk to them about that kind of stuff. And sometimes that develops into a story. Like we had one of our employees who grew a watermelon that was big enough to win first place at the Missouri State Fair. So we're like, we're gonna talk about that. So it was a great interview, asking him about his gardening techniques and gardening with his family. So it was a really kind of cool and rewarding story. So those kind of pop up when you're out talking to people and kind of getting to know them individually anyway. And then we also have a staff meeting. So staff meetings are kind of a place where people are saying what they're doing that week or what their win was from the week before. They might not be overly jazzed about it all the time, but sometimes you're listening and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's find out more about that. So that's kind of some of the ways that we're getting that internal news.
I love that. I have to ask, the watermelon, did you buy his statewide award-winning watermelon and slice it up for staff?
No, unfortunately we didn't. I think he took it home, and because I asked him about it, how it tasted, and Justin, if you're listening, sorry, I'm trying to remember this. I don't think he said it tasted very good. I don't think it was very it won based on size, but it wasn't that it was really tasty, really juicy or something. So
Okay.
so
Just curious.
impressed that he won, but no, we didn't purchase that one.
Okay. No worries. So let's talk bribery.
Yeah, let's do it.
You just kind of alluded to it a minute ago, where you have folks that have big wins. I will admit, and then that's kind of plays into what y'all do to celebrate and bribe staff. When I was at Greystone Power, I would often bring fresh, hot Krispy Kreme donuts,
Oh, that's nice.
right? And I would just bring them to the docks and would sit out in the docks handing out donuts and just catching up with the crews before they went out for the day to get the news.
Yeah,
So I mean, I paid with calories for that news. What have you tried that works, and what bribes have gotten just left on the table like that was not a win for us?
Sure. So I went straight to what I knew would win, and that was money.
Money talks.
It does. So usually my bribery is money, kind of money focused. We give out a lot of
throwing them out, dollar bills everywhere.
I thought about it. No, we do a lot of Amazon gift cards, mostly because that's a really easy one for me to just go on Amazon and do the digital gift card, so it emails it to them right away. So we do a lot of that. We have an incentive program for our linemen to take and submit photos, and if we use them, they can get a little bit of Amazon cash.
Does that work?
It does, yeah.
What are we talking about here? Have you got like 2 line workers that have sent you pictures?
Oh no, we get quite a few. There's some that are more consistent than others, but others, if they're out, especially like following a storm, we'll get a whole bunch more. We'll get videos, we'll get photos. So obviously, you're always going to have some that are you're best at sending anyway, and just adding a little bit of money just helps send more. But yeah, we've got quite a few from that program, which was really awesome to see. But in addition to that, with internal news and stuff, just to get them to read it and interact with it, especially if we have a call to action somewhere in there where we need them to take a survey or we need them to sign up to participate in something, just to make sure that they're reading it. We'll say, hey, anybody who signs up or anybody who does this survey, you're entered for a chance to win a $20 Amazon gift card. So we don't have to keep pumping those numbers up. If you
you can't see, I'm like $20. Come on.
No, just to take a survey. I mean, I'm not saying that they have to dance a little jig in front of an audience. So when we do that quite frequently, because that was another thing that I mentioned in this session and the session that we talk about at the Pioneer conference, Story Connect, was saying get told no. I'm a huge fan of getting told no. I despise the idea personally of thinking, oh, I'm just going to get a no. It took me a while to get out of that mentality, and now I'm trying to break everybody else of that mentality, because you feel like you've been working at this co-op for so long. You know the people. You feel like, I know the answer is going to be no. It's like, well, then get told no. Give a reason of why you should have this and why we should change it or why you should get that money, and have them tell you no instead of getting that no from yourself, because sometimes you'll get surprised. And that's how we end up getting a little bit of budget. I pitched, hey, let's do some stuff for employee culture. Let's get this budget going for various things that we had plans to do, and I laid it all out. And based on my knowledge of co-ops, I was like, they're going to tell me no, but I want them to tell me no. And they didn't. So sometimes you'll get surprised. And even if you don't get surprised and you get told no, that's the worst that's going to happen. You got told no.
No, that makes me happy. And you're not just giving Amazon gift cards, and also you can always consider giving REI gift cards.
I could, yeah.
Because they're a co-op.
They are.
I know Pioneer, we switched over and started, not to pressure you, of course, Patrick.
I'm feeling a little pressure.
I know, but...
I feel like Jeffrey Bezos they're going to pop up around the corner saying, don't.
That's the year of the co-ops. We got to support co-ops where we can. But so you don't just do that. You also offer experiences to a certain group of employees as part
just
of
my favorites.
No, that's not what I heard in the session yet. Okay.
That's right. That's not what we end up doing.
First. But a group of exclusive experiences for folks to win as well. Tell me a little bit about, what do you call it, the member kudos?
Yeah, so we have kudos that we have opportunities. There's different programs that we use. We use a program called Pingboard. which is a really great program if you're looking for something for an employee directory that also has the opportunity that you can write applause. So you cheer on your team, and you can say something where they went above and beyond, and everybody can click the little clap emoji and really celebrate that. So that was one way that we asked people to put in kudos for their coworkers. We had surveys on SurveyMonkey where they could submit kudos for their coworkers, and all of that was something that the employee did have to go above and beyond. You couldn't just give a real crisp high five in the hallway and call that good as going above and beyond, unless it was like a really, really good high five.
I mean, there's bars.
Yeah, there's bars. So all of those went into kind of a bowl. And we had a whole bunch of experiences. We went through and we're like, what are people going to want to do? And I love a survey. We surveyed people asking, what would you like? So we ended up having experiences where we sent teams to Kansas City Royals games, Kansas City Chiefs games, St. Louis Blues games. We sent them to see Wicked at the Fox. They went to a couple of concerts, including Luke Combs and Tim McGraw. And we kind of randomly selected out of the bowl people's names who received those kudos, those kind of going above and beyond. And we said, what do you want to do? So they had the opportunity to choose what would actually make them happy, what they'd be excited about. And we kept the group to around 7 or 8. So they got to experience and interact with people that they don't typically get to interact with because we're randomly selecting it. And a member of senior staff was the one that actually took them on the experience, paid for the dinner, paid for the stuff. So they got one-on-one time with a member of senior staff they might not see very often, and got to make new experiences and connect more with their fellow employees that they might not see very often. So it was a really rewarding experience. And at the end of the year, when we finally said, okay, we're going to turn it off for the year, and we've drawn everybody out and they all had their experiences, it was a really rewarding experience for everybody.
Well, and it also helped you get content.
Exactly,
or your 5-minute news bites.
Yeah.
Because I always have folks say, how do you find out what's going on? How do you get content for, especially if you're spread out? Now, you have 2 offices.
Yeah, we do have 2 offices.
So I spoke to someone yesterday, and they have, I think, 4 or 5 offices. And she's like, how do I connect with the employees in all those different ways? And I love this idea that you shared yesterday.
Because we definitely had employees from different offices, both of our different locations, and all 4 of our offices. And yes, like you said, the stories came out of it. Some of them were shareable. Some of them were nice experiences that we're happy that they had. Some even included the company vehicle breaking down on the way to a concert, getting abandoned at a church parking lot, renting a new vehicle. Wow. Yeah, it was fun. That was the one I got to lead. So,
please. I love that though, because you're getting the news. You're bribing them, but making it an experience is powerful.
And there's a fine line there as you're listening to this between bribery, because it is bribery. I'm not going to lie about that, but it's also helping to develop and build an employee culture and really cultivating an environment where people want to thrive and also just genuinely want to work.
I love that so much. The Connect opening speaker, Marley Williams, was delightful, and she encouraged folks to give themselves permission to play.
I gave myself permission to play a long time ago. I don't think I ever stopped.
This is not unusual for you. It certainly sounds like you have a lot of fun at Como Connect.
Yes.
What do you think holds folks back from making internal communications fun?
Tradition is a big one, I think. Sometimes people inherit an internal communication style that has been done for years, and they're while they might be willing to abandon it, they're afraid that others might see that as moving away from tradition, which is real big in co-ops. Sometimes that fear of failure. So you might have a good idea, but you're like, I'm not sure it's going to work, or the dreaded, I don't think 100% of everybody is going to want to do that. So I think that fear and hesitation hold people back. And to both of those, I'd say, one, on the last one, if you have an idea, try it. Get messy. See if it's going to work. If it doesn't, abandon it and move on. But at least you try, you learned.
You played the game.
You played the game. So you have that opportunity, but also diversify your communication strategy. Just like you have external communication, you have more than one way that you're communicating. Do the same internally. We have a variety of ways that we're communicating internally because not everybody wants to receive that information the same way. We're so focused on meeting members where they are. We also need to meet our employees where they are and how they want to be communicated with.
100%.
And that tradition, sometimes killing traditions is hard. I actually had a conversation with one of the folks that attended the session about that. And there's different ways you can do it. You can just say, hey, this sucks, and see how that goes.
Don't do that.
You can do it. But really, when you tell them it sucks, what you really have to do is show why.
Yeah.
So you need to show the statistics why it's not working, and then offer something else. You can't just say it isn't working, we need to think of something else. Have that ready. So say this isn't working, show them why it's not working, and then show them something that would potentially work, why it would work, and how it still retains that same goal of the original traditional communication that they liked, and see if they're willing to move on it. And if not, be willing to negotiate and say, can we keep the traditional thing but also try this at the same time? And see if that's something they're willing to eventually be like, oh, your way is working, mine's not as much, and see if they're willing to move on from tradition.
I love it. Well, Patrick, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for playing this game with me today and sharing your story with Utility Pioneers. He is Patrick Wood at Como Connect, and I'm your host, Megan McCoy-No at Pioneer Utility Resources. And until we talk again, keep playing while telling your story.
Story Connect is produced by Pioneer Utility Resources, a communications cooperative that is built to share your story. Story Connect is engineered by Lucas Smith of Lucky Sound Studio.